Hello, in this lesson, I'm going to go over calculate the mean and standard deviation of a grouped data. First, I'm going to do it by hand computation, and then I'm going to do it by calculator. So let's do it. So this is an example below here. It says approximate the mean from a relative frequency distribution. To estimate the ladybug population in a field, researchers divide the field into sections and then count ladybugs in a sample of 20 different sections of the same size. The results are summarized below. Approximate the mean and standard deviation for the number of ladybugs. So before we start calculating, let's look at the formula here. So we on the box over here, we have population mean. Note that for population mean, we use a sample mu for population mean. For population standard deviation, we use a simple sigma. And then for sample mean, we use x bar, and sample standard deviation, we use s. So those are the formulas here. So since we're talking about a sample of 20 different sections, meaning that we're estimating a sample. So therefore, I'm going to using the sample formula. So therefore, I'm going to use the one on the right. Okay. So notice that to calculate the mean, I need summation. I need the sum of all the xi times fi over fi. So before I sum it up, I need column to represent what I needed, right? So the top, I need xi fi. That's why I have a xi fi column. I also need xi because before I can xi fi, I need xi. And fi is the frequency, which is the frequency column, which we have. So that's what we needed for the mean. So let's put the mean first. So the mean, I'm going to need a 3 column here. And let me explain what each column is. Now, this is a frequency distribution table. Notice that this is a number of ladybugs. This is your class. This is lower class limit 50, upper class limit 59. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different classes. Now the frequency, we use the notation fi for frequency. So this is fi. Xi, this is your class midpoint. Class midpoints. There's this column here. And class midpoint, we call that is equal to lower class limit plus upper class limit divided by 2. And then you're going to add 0.5 at the end. That's how we calculate class midpoint here. So I'm going to give you an example, calculate one of them. So let's do the first one. Okay. So for the first one, my fi is 3. My lower class limit is 50. My upper class limit is 59. So if I want to calculate class limit, let me do class limit for the first class. So x1 is equal to lower class limit of the first class, which is 50. Upper class limit of the first class, which is 59, over 2. And then once I've done this, then I'm going to add 0.5 at the end. So when you add it, so 50 plus 59 going to be 109 divided by 2, and then add 0.5. Again, for this part here, we can support it with calculation from your calculator. Let me move this over here so you get it. So I would have 50 plus 59, okay. 109 divided by 2, and then plus 0.5. So I would have 55. And that's how I get the 55 there. So 50, okay, so this is 54.5 plus 0.5, which gives me 55. And that's how I get the number 55 over here. Let me color code it so you know how to get it, how I get that number there. So this is 55. And that's the 55 that I got over there. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing for each class. So for the second x2, you're going to do the same thing, right? x2. You're going to have lower limit of second class, 60 plus 69 over 2.5, and then you'll get 65. So do the same thing for the whole column, and that's how I get the column for xi. Now the xi, notice that we have not, this tells me to multiply your frequency with your class midpoint. So let's do the next one. Let me do it. Let me erase that one, keep the space. So to get x1, okay, f1, again, let me use color code. x1 times f1. We're going to give me x1 is 55. f1 is the frequency for the class, that is 3. Multiply them, I get 165. And I'm going to use the height 165. And that's where this 165 come from. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing for all of them. Right, so I will do 65 times 4, gonna give me 260. 75 times 6, give me 450. 85 times 5, give me 425. And then 95 times 2, give me 190. And that's how I get this column, xi times fi. Now, once I've done that, then I can calculate my mean. Now, remember the mean, I need a summation of fi in my denominator. So I'll sum the column for the frequency. Sum the column, I'm gonna add 3 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5 plus 2. And then when you add it up, I get 20. Right, 20. So that's the 20. This is, let me use a color coded. This is my total of 20. Let me just do this color. All right. So I can do the same thing for the column xi/fi. If I would calculate the total over here, the column total for this one, I have 165 plus 260 plus 450 plus 425 plus 190, and that's what the summation of xi/fi mean. So let me add it. So this column gives me, let's just do one here, okay. One time, so I have 165 plus 260 plus 450 plus 425 plus 190, and I get 1490. Okay, and that is a summation of xi/fi. Now, using that, I can find the mean. So I say the mean is sample mean here. So x bar is equal to summation of xi/fi over summation of fi. Notice that my summation of xi/fi is 1490, and my summation of fi, which is the 20. Calculate that, and then I divide. Okay, so I will have 1490 over 20. That gives me 74.5. Okay, 74.5. That means on each lot, there are on average 74.5 or 75, approximately 75 ladybugs in each lot. Now, once I found my mean, now I can use that to calculate my standard deviation. All right, let me revise manual space. This is fi. So now, for calculate standard deviation, I'm going to add, this is 2 columns that helps me calculate the standard deviation. So first, I'm going to do xi minus x bar. X bar is my mean. This is part 1. Let's part 2. Okay, so I would say, let's say I do my first one, my x1 minus my x bar. I'm going to do the first, so I will have x1 minus x bar. x1 is that's my 55, minus x bar is 74.5. Okay, I subtract that, then I'll get, let's do it. Okay, you can just take out the calculator and do it again. So we have 55 minus 74.5, negative 19.5. So negative 19, I write it down, negative 19.5 and negative 19.5. And that's how I do this column. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for all of them. So I'm going to just fill it in using a calculator. So for this row here, I would have, do the next one. Okay, so once you fill up the column, using the same method here, I can square the xi minus x bar square and times fi. So I squared this column over here, the column over here, and then I multiplied it to my fi. So let's do this one here. So I would have, in this case, I would have x1 minus x bar quantity square, and then I multiply that to my f1. So if I do the same calculation, my x1 again is my x, the first row, 55. 55 minus x bar, I've calculated that already, that's a negative 19.5. I squared that and multiplied that to my f1. My f1 is a frequency for the first class, which is 3. And then I multiply that. 440.75. And this is where this number, then I put this number over here. Right? That's how I got the xi squared times fi. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of them to fill out the table. All right. So, for example, if I want x2, let me do one more, just so you get it. So x2, I would have x2 minus x bar squared times f2. That will be my x2 is the 65. Again, but I don't need to calculate the whole thing again, because I did it in the previous column, which is x2 minus x bar. That's a row 2. That's negative 9.5. And then I square it. F2 is the class midpoint for the second class, is 65. And multiply that, you get 361. Right? And that's how I get a 361 in here. So do the same thing. I would suggest you pause the video, do this to see if you get the same thing. Make sure you know how to calculate it. Okay, all right, next we're going to calculate the sum of the column for the last column, xi minus x bar squared times fi. So basically you're going to add 1440.75 plus 361 plus 1.5 plus 551.25 plus 840.5. And then when you add it up, you will get 3,195. So sum of the column. That's what we right here. Okay. Again, pause the video, try it out yourself. So this is a set of these last two column here are the setup to calculate the standard deviation. And note that before I can calculate standard deviation, I need the mean. Right? So let's do it. Now I can use that to calculate my standard deviation. So recall standard deviation is using this formula over here. Summation, the square fi, which is the top here. Notice that this top here is this column, sum of this column. And the bottom is summation of fi minus 1. Right? So let's just use that. So let me do it. So I would have standard deviation, for example, is square root of summation of xi minus x bar square fi, and the denominator is summation of fi, right? Sum it up, then minus 1. So let's just plug it in since we already calculated. So we have a square root. Now this is the last column sum, the 3,195. 3,195. And the denominator here is summation of fi, we know is 20, and then minus 1, right? And then I'm going to do the calculation. So I would have 20 minus 1 give me 19. So we have 3,195 over 19. And then I'm going to take the square root of that. So 168.1579. Okay, just approximate that. And then a square root of that number gives me 12.97 approximately. Yeah, let me write in the second row, approximately 12.97. And there's a sample standard deviation, right? And that is the sample mean. So we just compute the sample standard deviation and sample mean by hand. Again, let me walk you through the process again. So first, I'm given my table given the frequency and the classes here. So first I fill in the class midpoint, which is my xi. And once I've done xi is given by lower class limit plus upper class limit over 2 at 0.5. Once I've done that, then I need a xi times fi. That is a class midpoint times your frequency, which give me the second column. And then these two column here, and is used to calculate the mean. Once I found my mean, then I move on to calculate my standard deviation. So first I calculate my xi minus x bar. And then xi minus x bar squared times fi. Again, here I just plug it in basic computation. And now this number over here is the sum of this column, 3,195 added up, give me that. And this summation of xi fi is tell me sum of this column. And summation fi is just this column. Right? So this is calculation by hand using the setup here. Notice it's very tedious, a lot of computation. For this one here is good, I would say great, to use a calculator. I would highly recommend just use a calculator to figure it out. So now I'm going to show you how it's done using a calculator. I'm going to do a mean first. I'm going to show you step by step. I'm going to do the whole thing using the calculator. All right. So first thing is I'm going to enter my data into the calculator. Notice at L1, I enter the lower class limit, which is in the table here, which is 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And the L2, I enter the upper class limit. Now, and then in L3, I'm going to calculate the class midpoint, which is your xi. Right? Okay, let me do the xi. I will say xi, what we did is we add lower class limit plus upper class limit over 2 and then 8.5. Well, I can do the computation here in one step in my calculator. So we'll say lower class limit is in L1. So I'm going to second L1, give me L1 plus upper class limit, which is in L2. Okay, close that. And then I divide it by 2 and then add 0.5 at the end. Notice that I use parentheses to tell my calculator what to do first. Now notice that that's my class midpoint, which is same thing as xi, 55, 65, 75, 85, 95. Now once I have that, then I'm going to need the frequency, right? Frequency is in the second column here, 3, 4, 6, 5, 2. I'm going to enter frequency in L4. Okay, that is 3, 4, 6, 5, 2. That's my frequency. My class midpoint is in L3. My frequency is in L4. So these are two columns that I need to compute the mean and standard deviation. So I'm going to go to stat, go to calculate. One var stat is highlighted, just put enter. Now, the first one here, the list is where your midpoint, class midpoint is. In our table, we are in L3. And the frequency we put in L4, right? So I'm going to go to L4. L4 gives me frequency. So list is where the class midpoint. Frequency is your Fi, which you're going to enter into, I put in L4. And then just calculate. Ta-da, see? My mean here is 74.5. And then my standard deviation here is 12.34. That's how we calculated the mean and standard deviation by calculator. Again, let me walk you through again. So first thing is I enter my data into my lower class limit in L1, my upper class limit in L2. Then I find a class midpoint, which is in L1 plus L2 over 2 divided by 2 at 0.5. Again, let me clear, show you again. So let me clear and enter. So to find a class midpoint, I can just do in one step. I say lower class limit is in L1 plus upper class limit, which is in L2. Oh, let me clear. Second L2. And then I say the whole thing divided by 2. And then I add 0.5. And that's how we find the xi. And once I've done that, then I'll enter my fi. My fi in L4 is 3, 4, 6, 5, 2. And then once I've done that, I'm just using my calculator to do it. Okay. So I say go to stat, calculate, one var stat. The list is my midpoint xi, and the frequency list is my frequency in the table here. Right. I put in L4. And once it's done all that, just calculate, and we'll get the answer. Right. So that's how you calculate mean and standard deviation for grouped data. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you next time.